The sound of metal hitting rock echoed through the dark tunnel. Park Dae-ho wiped sweat from his face and looked at the sharp crystal in his hands. 3 years ago, he was teaching students about alien life at Seoul University.
Oh, he was digging.
These strange crystals from the ground for his alien masters. The Valkyrie guard stood at the tunnel entrance. It was 12 feet tall, with scales that looked like broken glass. Its yellow eyes watched every human worker. When it breathed, steam came from its nose. Its claws were longer than Dae-ho's fingers and sharper than any knife. Dae-ho remembered. The day they came, it was a Tuesday morning in 2154. The sky turned black with their ships. At first, people thought it was an eclipse. Then the ships landed. The Valkyrie came out like nightmares made real. They moved like giant cats, silent and deadly. Their heads turned toward any sound. Their noses could smell fear. The world's armies tried to fight. Tanks fired shells that bounced off Valkyrie skin. Bullets did nothing. The aliens moved too fast. They jumped over buildings. They ran through walls. In 1 week, every major city fell. In 1 month, all human governments surrendered. The Valkyrie did not want to destroy humans. They wanted to use them. Humans became 3 things: workers, food, or toys. The lucky ones worked in mines and factories. The unlucky ones ended up in Valkyrie kitchens. Some humans were kept as pets for young Valkyrie to practice hunting. Dae-ho was lucky. His knowledge of biology kept him alive. The Valkyrie needed someone to teach them about human bodies, at which humans were strong enough to work, at which ones would break too easily, which ones would taste better. He hated himself for helping them, but dead humans could not fight back. Let's work faster. The Valkyrie guard growled. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. The shepherds want more crystals. Dae-ho nodded and went back to digging. Around him, other humans worked in silence. They had learned not to talk. The Valkyrie did not like noise from their workers. Too much noise meant punishment. Punishment meant death. But Dae-ho was watching. Always watching. In 3 years, he had learned many things about his masters. They were perfect hunters, but they had patterns. They always hunted alone or in pairs. They always attacked from behind. They always went for the throat first. Most important of all, they thought like predators. They saw everything as either hunter or prey, strong or weak, dominant or submissive. There was no middle ground in their minds. The tunnel shook. Heavy footsteps came closer. The guard stood straight and lowered its head. A shepherd was coming. Shepherds were bigger than guards. They wore metal armor over their scales. They carried weapons that could cut through steel. They were the ones who gave orders to guards and watched over large groups of humans. This shepherd was named Korvac. Dae-ho had seen him many times. Korvac was cruel even by Valkyrie standards. He liked to make examples of slow workers. Last month, he had eaten a human in front of everyone because the man had dropped a crystal. "How much have they collected?" Korvac asked the guard. "Half the daily quota, shepherd. The humans are working well today." Korvac walked into the tunnel. His claws clicked on the stone floor. He looked at each human worker. His yellow eyes stopped. "On Dae-ho? You? The teacher? Come here." Dae-ho put down his tools and walked over. He kept his head down and his hands visible. Never look a Valkyrie in the eyes. Never make sudden movements. Never show fear, but never show courage either. Be nothing. Be invisible. "The High Command wants a report on human breeding," Korvac said. "They want to know how fast humans can reproduce. How many young they have. How long it takes for young to become useful workers." "Yes, shepherd. I will prepare the report." "Good. Remember, teacher, your usefulness keeps you alive. The moment you stop being useful, ... double quotes, claws extended. Well, you know what happens?" Korvac left. The guard relaxed. The other workers went back to their digging. Bye. But Dae-ho's mind was racing. A breeding report. The Valkyrie were planning something big. Maybe they wanted to expand to other worlds. Maybe they wanted to increase the human population on Earth. Either way, it meant they were thinking long-term. It meant they saw humans as a permanent resource. Evening, Deho walked back to the human settlement. It was a collection of metal buildings surrounded by high walls. Guards watched from towers. Searchlights swept the ground every few minutes. At night, the Valkyrie let humans rest, but they never let them gather in large groups. Deho's building housed 50 workers. They slept on thin mattresses on metal floors, ate processed food that tasted like cardboard. They were allowed to talk quietly after work, but never about escape or resistance. The walls had listening devices, but humans had learned to be clever. They had learned to communicate without words. A touch on the shoulder, a certain look, a pattern of coughs. 3 years of slavery had taught them to be careful. That night, as Deho lay on his mattress, he thought about the Valkyrie. He thought about their hunting patterns, their weaknesses, their blind spots. The Valkyrie were apex predators on their homeworld. They had evolved to hunt large, dangerous prey. Their senses were perfect for tracking. Their speed was incredible for short bursts. Their strength could crush bones. But they had never hunted anything that could think like them. They had never faced prey that could plan and coordinate. They had never fought anything that could turn their own instincts against them. On their world, the Valkyrie were the smartest hunters. On Earth, they were just another predator. Every predator had weaknesses. The next morning, Deho made a decision. He would start watching more carefully. He would learn everything about Valkyrie behavior. He would find their patterns and their mistakes. Most importantly, he would find other humans who were still thinking like fighters instead of prey. The Valkyrie had ruled Earth for 3 years. They thought they would rule it forever. They thought. Humans were broken. They were wrong. The first step to becoming a predator was to stop thinking like prey. Park Deho was ready to take that step. 2 weeks after his meeting with Shepherd Korvac, Deho finished his breeding report. But he had also been writing another report. This one was for himself. It was about Valkyrie behavior patterns. He had filled 20 pages with observations. How they moved, how they hunted, how they reacted to different situations. Most importantly, how they made mistakes. The problem was finding other humans who could help him. The Valkyrie kept workers separated. They moved people between different jobs. They made sure no one stayed in the same place too long. Building trust took time, and time was dangerous. But Deho had noticed something. During meal breaks, some humans sat together. They whispered. They looked around carefully before speaking. These were the ones who had not given up hope. He started. With Kim Sodashra, Sora worked in the communication center. She helped maintain the devices that let Valkyrie guards talk to each other. Before the invasion, she had been in the military. She knew about radios and computers and tactical planning. Deho sat next to her during lunch. The food was the same as always, gray paste that tasted like nothing. Around them, other humans ate in silence. The Valkyrie guards watched from the corners. "The weather is strange today," Deho said quietly. It was code. If Sora was interested in resistance, she would know how to respond. "Yes," she whispered back. "It feels like a storm is coming." They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Sora spoke again. "I fixed their communication devices. I see their patrol schedules. I know when they change guard shifts. I study their behavior," Deho replied. "I think they have weaknesses."
What?
"Kind of weaknesses. They hunt alone. They never work in groups larger than 3. They always attack the same way. They think all humans are the same." Sora's eyes grew interested. "You think we can use this?" "Maybe, but I need to learn more. I need to meet others." Sora nodded. "There is a man named Lee Taman. He worked in the recycling center before the invasion. Now he processes human waste for the Valkyrie. He's been here since the beginning. He knows things. Can you arrange a meeting? It will take time. The Valkyrie watch everything, but I can try." 1 week later, Deho met Taman in the shower room. The Valkyrie did not like the smell of human soap, so they stayed away during cleaning time. It was one of the few places humans could talk freely. Taman was older than Deho. His hair was gray and his hands were scarred from 3 years of hard work, but his eyes were sharp and angry. "Sora says you want to study our masters," Taman said. "I want to understand them. I think they can be beaten." Taman laughed, but it was not a happy sound. I have seen them tear apart tanks with their bare hands. I have seen them catch bullets in midair. What makes you think they can be beaten? Because they think like animals, Deho said. Smart animals, but still animals. They have instincts. Instincts can be predicted. Predicted behavior can be countered. Tell me more. Deho pulled out a small piece of paper. He had drawn pictures of Valkyrie in different situations. Watch how they move. They always position themselves upwind from their target. They always approach from the side or behind. They never attack from the front unless they are sure they can win quickly. Taman studied the drawings. What does this mean? It means they are ambush predators. They evolved to hunt prey that runs away. They have never learned to fight prey that fights back intelligently. But humans who fight back get killed. Humans who fight back stupidly get killed, Deho corrected. Humans who fight back smartly might survive. If they survive, they might win. Taman was quiet for a long time. What do you need? I need more people. I need to observe more Valkyrie. I need to test my theories. Testing theories can get people killed. Not testing theories means we stay slaves forever. Taman nodded slowly. I know 2 more people. Choi and Sue works in the food processing center. He sees how the Valkyrie eat. He knows their feeding patterns. Han Boyoung maintains their machines. She understands their technology. Can you bring them to a meeting? Yes, but we have to be very careful. The Valkyrie are not stupid. They will notice if humans start gathering in groups. The next meeting was larger. 5 humans sat in a maintenance tunnel deep underground. The Valkyrie rarely came here because the air was thick with chemical smells that hurt their sensitive noses. Dot and Sue was a big man with strong arms. He had been a soldier before the invasion. He knew about weapons and fighting tactics. Boyoung was small and quiet, but her eyes were always moving, always thinking. I have been watching them eat, Sue said. They have rituals. They always eat in the same order, always taste their food before swallowing. They get sleepy after large meals. What about their technology? Deho asked Boyoung. Their machines are biological, she said. They grow them instead of building them. The machines need special nutrients to work. If you remove the nutrients, the machines stop working. Interesting. Deho said. What kind of nutrients? Protein compounds, amino acids, things that come from living creatures. Sora leaned forward. You mean their technology depends on biology? Yes. Their weapons, their communication devices, their vehicles, they are all alive in some way. They need food to function. Deho felt excitement building in his chest. This is important. If we can disrupt their food supply, we can disrupt their technology. But how? Taman asked. They control all the food production, not all of it, Sue said. They eat raw meat, they hunt wild animals in the forests. They prefer fresh kills to processed food, so their hunting trips are opportunities, Deho said. Opportunities for what? To observe them, to learn their patterns, to see how they behave when they think they are safe. The group spent the next hour discussing plans. They would gather information slowly and carefully. They would map Valkyrie patrol routes. They would study their feeding habits, learn everything they could about their technology and their biology. Most importantly, they would look for other humans who were ready to fight. We need to be patient, Deho warned. The Valkyrie have ruled this world for 3 years. They will not be defeated in 3 days. But they can be defeated. How can you be so sure? Boyoung asked. Because they think they are perfect hunters. They think they are the top of the food chain. They think they know everything about humans. Deho smiled for the first time in months. They are wrong about all of those things. And when a predator is wrong about its prey, the prey becomes the predator. The meeting ended. The 5 humans went back to their jobs. But something had changed. They were no longer just workers. Were no longer just prey. They were becoming something the Valkyrie had never seen before. They were becoming hunters. 3 months had passed since the first secret meeting. Deho's group had grown to 12 people. It also learned much more about their alien masters. Young Minho was the newest member. He was young, only 22, but he had special Skills. Before the invasion, he had been a computer expert. He could hack into systems and change data without being caught. Now he worked in the Valkyrie Logistics Center, managing supply schedules and work assignments. I can access their communication network, Minho whispered during their weekly meeting. They use biological computers, but the basic programming is simple. I can create false messages. What kind of messages? Taman asked. Emergency signals, distress calls, reports of human escapes. It's anything that makes them move their guards to different locations. Deho nodded. This was exactly what they needed. Can you do it without them knowing? Yes. Their system thinks. I am updating work schedules. But really, I am sending fake emergency calls to guard posts. The group had also gained another important member. Chen Nari had been a disease expert before the invasion. She studied how sickness spread and how to stop it. Now she worked in the medical center, treating sick human workers. I have been studying Valkyrie biology, Nari said. I collected samples of their blood and saliva when they visited the medical center. They have some interesting weaknesses. Did you find? Deho asked. Their night vision is poor, much worse than humans. They see heat signatures well, but in complete darkness, they are almost blind. Also, their hearing is too sensitive. Very loud noises cause them pain, that explains. Why they avoid the chemical processing areas, Bo Young said. The machines there are very loud. There is more, Nari continued. They have a strong fear response to certain smells, specifically the smell of their own blood mixed with decay. It triggers panic in them. And Sue looked interested. Panic. How? They run away. I tested it accidentally when I was cleaning medical equipment. A guard smelled old Valkyrie blood mixed with cleaning chemicals. He left the room immediately and did not come back for hours. Deho felt pieces of a plan forming in his mind. We need to test these weaknesses, but carefully. If we make them suspicious, they will kill us all. Sora said. There is a guard named Thrak who patrols the communication center alone. He always takes the same route at the same time. He's overconfident and careless. What are you thinking? We follow him. Not to attack, just to watch. To see how he reacts when he thinks he is being hunted. It was a dangerous plan. They were caught following a Valkyrie. They would be executed immediately. But they needed to know if their theories were correct. The following week, they put their plan into action. Minho sent a false emergency signal to the eastern sector. Most of the guards rushed to investigate. This left Thrak alone in his usual patrol area. Deho, Sora, and Insu followed him from a distance. They stayed in the shadows. They moved. Quietly, they used the ventilation tunnels to get ahead of him. Thrak was 8 feet tall and covered in dark scales. His claws clicked on the metal floors as he walked. He carried a plasma weapon that could cut through steel. He looked like death itself, but something strange happened as they followed him. Thrak began to act differently, stopped more often. He looked around. He sniffed the air, his head turned toward every small sound. He knows, Insu whispered. He can sense we are here. But he's not attacking, Sora replied. Look at his body language. He is nervous. She was right. Thrak's movements had changed. Instead of walking confidently, he was crouched low. Instead of moving in straight lines, he was zigzagging. Instead of hunting, he was acting like prey. This is incredible, Deho breathed. He can sense that he is being hunted, but he does not know how to handle it. He has never been prey before. They followed Thrak for 30 minutes. The longer they stalked him, the more nervous he became. Finally, he did something that shocked them all. He called for backup. Unit 7 to command, they heard him say into his communication device. I am detecting unusual human activity in Sector 5. Request additional patrol units. Acknowledged Unit 7. Units 3 and 9 are responding. Thrak waited for the other guards to arrive before continuing his patrol. When they did, all 3 Valkyrie stayed close together. They no longer spread out to cover more ground. They moved as a group, watching each other's backs. We did it, Sora whispered as they made their way back to their quarters. We made a Valkyrie afraid. More than afraid, Deho said. We made him change his behavior. We made him call for help. We made him weak. The success of their first stalking mission encouraged them to try more experiments. Over the next month, they began a campaign of psychological warfare. Minho created false reports of human activities in different sectors. This forced the Velkhari to spread their guards thin, investigating threats that did not exist. Nari prepared small amounts of the chemical mixture that frightened Velkhari. They placed these in ventilation systems near guard posts. Guards would smell the mixture and leave their positions. Bo Young sabotaged minor equipment in ways that looked like accidents. Lights would flicker. Communication devices would make strange noises. Doors would open and close by themselves. Most importantly, they began leaving signs that they were watching. Moved object here. A rearranged tool there. Nothing obvious enough to be called sabotage, but clear enough to make the Velkhari nervous. The effects were dramatic. Within weeks, Velkhari behavior began to change throughout the entire facility. Guards no longer patrolled alone. They traveled in groups of 3 or 4, no longer walked the same routes every day. They changed their schedules randomly. They installed new security cameras and motion sensors. Most telling of all, they began acting like prey animals. They watched for threats constantly. They jumped at unexpected sounds. They slept less and ate more, storing energy in case they needed to run or fight. "Look at them," Taman said during one of their meetings. 3 months ago, they walked around like they owned the world. Now they act like scared rabbits. "We have not hurt any of them yet," Bo Young pointed out. "All we have done is make them think they might be in danger." "That is the point," Deho explained. "The fear of being hunted is sometimes worse than actually being hunted. It changes how you think, how you act, how you sleep, how you eat. It makes you weak. So what is our next step?" Insu asked. Deho smiled. It was the smile of a predator who had found wounded prey. "Now we stop playing games. Now we actually hunt one of them." The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. They were about to cross a line they could never uncross. They were about to become the thing that Velkhari feared most. They were about to become apex predators. The plan to capture a Velkhari was dangerous. One mistake would mean death for everyone involved. But Deho's group had grown to 23 people. They had been studying their enemies for 6 months. They were ready. Their target was a guard named Skarox. He was smaller than most Velkhari, only 10 feet tall. He was young and overconfident. Most importantly, he had a weakness. He liked to hunt alone at night in the forest outside the facility. Oh. Kungmin had joined their group 2 weeks earlier. Before the invasion, he had worked for a drug company, creating medicines to fight diseases. Now he worked in the Velkhari medical facility, preparing treatments for sick guards. "I have created something special," Kungmin told the group during their secret meeting. "It is a gas that makes Velkhari sleepy. It will not kill them, but it will make them weak and slow." "How do you know it works?" Taman asked. "I tested it on medical samples. Velkhari blood cells stop working properly when they contact this gas. Their reflexes slow down. Their strength decreases by half." Shin the Jen was another new member. She had made movies before the invasion. Now she managed supply deliveries between different work areas. This job let her move around the facility and carry messages between resistance groups. "There are other groups like ours," the Jinn reported. "In the mining facility, 40 humans are working together. The processing plant, 60 more. Oh, they're all using the methods we developed. That is good," Deho said. "But we need to coordinate better. We need to work as one large pack, not many small ones." "I can help with that," the Jinn said. "I have contacts in every work area. I can carry messages and plans between groups. The night of the capture operation, everything had to work perfectly." Minho sent false emergency signals to the eastern and western sectors. This pulled most guards away from the forest area. Nari prepared her fear-scent mixture and placed it along Skarox's usual hunting route. Bo Young disabled the security cameras in the forest using a small electromagnetic device. 12 humans took part in the actual capture. They spread out through the forest like a net. Each person knew exactly where to be and what to do. They had practiced the plan dozens of times using sticks and rocks to represent Velkhari. Scarex entered the forest at midnight, just as he always did. He was hunting wild deer that lived in the woods. He moved silently between the trees, following scent trails and heat signatures. But tonight, he was the one being hunted. The humans used tactics that no Valkyrie had ever experienced. Instead of running away, they surrounded him. Instead of making noise, they stayed completely silent. Instead of showing fear, they moved with the confidence of pack hunters. Scarex noticed something was wrong when he reached the first scent marker. The smell of decay and Valkyrie blood made him stop. His nostrils flared, his eyes darted around the forest. Something is not right, he muttered to himself in the Valkyrie language. He tried to call for backup, but Boyoung had jammed the communication frequencies. His device made static sounds but could not reach the base. Scarex began to move faster. He abandoned his hunt and tried to return to the facility. But every path he took led him deeper into the human trap. The humans began making sounds. Not loud sounds that would frighten him into a fighting rage, but soft sounds that would make him curious. A branch breaking here, a leaf rustling there. Footsteps in the distance. Scarex's hunting instincts told him to investigate these sounds, but his survival instincts told him to run. The conflict between these two drives made him confused and slow. Now, Daeho whispered into his radio. Kungmin released the sleeping gas from hidden containers. The gas was invisible and odorless to humans, but it affected Velkar immediately. Scarex stumbled. His movements became clumsy. His reaction time slowed. The humans closed in. They did not attack with weapons. Instead, they used ropes and nets. They worked together like wolves, bringing down a large animal. When Scarex tried to strike with his claws, they were not there. When he tried to bite, they stayed out of reach. In 10 minutes, it was over. Scarex lay unconscious, wrapped in nets and ropes. For the first time in galactic history, Valkyrie had been captured alive by its former prey. They carried him to an abandoned underground storage room. When he awoke, up 6 hours later, he was chained to the wall with metal cables. 12 humans stood around him in a circle. Their eyes were cold and calculating. Scarex tried to break free, but the sleeping gas had left him weak. He tried to roar, but his voice came out as a weak growl. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. "What do you want?" he asked in broken human language. "We want to talk," Daeho said calmly. "We want to understand each other better. I will tell you nothing, human slave." "You misunderstand," Daeho replied. "We are not your slaves anymore, and you are not our master anymore. Right now, you are our prisoner. That makes us the predators, and you the prey." Scarex's eyes widened. In all his years, no one had ever spoken to him this way. No prey animal had ever claimed to be a predator. "This is impossible," he whispered. 3 months ago, it was impossible, Sora said. But things change. Hunters become prey. Prey becomes hunters. The strong become weak. The weak become strong. "Your people will come for me," Scarex said, but his voice shook. "Will they?" Taman asked. "When was the last time a Valkyrie went missing? Do you even have procedures for rescue operations? Or do you just assume that nothing can threaten a Valkyrie?" Scarex had no answer. The Valkyrie had never needed rescue procedures. They had never been threatened by anything before. "Here's what will happen," Daeho explained. "We are going to keep you here for a while. We are going to study you the way you studied us. We're going to learn about your weaknesses and your fears. Then we are going to use that knowledge to free every human on this planet. And if I refuse to cooperate..." Sue stepped forward. He held a metal rod in his hands. "Then you will learn what it feels like to be prey. Really prey. Hunted, caught, and eaten." Scarex looked at the faces around him. These were not the scared, broken humans he remembered. These were something new, something dangerous. Something that looked at him the way he had always looked at prey. "What have you become?" he whispered. Daeho smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We have become what you made us. We have become survivors. We have become hunters. We have become apex predators." Word of the capture spread quickly through the underground network. The Jinn carried the news to every resistance group on the planet. The message was simple. A Valkyrie had been captured by humans. The impossible had become possible. The psychological effect was enormous. New facilities around the world, Valkyrie guards began acting more nervous. They increased security measures. They called for reinforcements from their home planet. But the most important effect was on the humans themselves. For 3 years, they had lived in fear. They had believed their masters were invincible. Now they knew the truth. The Valkyrie could be defeated. The hunters could become the hunted. The food chain could be rewritten. The revolution had begun. 6 months after Skarx's capture, Earth was no longer the same planet. The Valkyrie Empire was crumbling and humanity had learned to hunt. The change started slowly. Human resistance groups around the world began using the tactics Deho's team had developed. They stalked Valkyrie guards, used psychological warfare. They captured more aliens alive instead of trying to kill them. Each captured Valkyrie taught humans something new. Some revealed military codes. Others explained weaknesses. In Valkyrie technology, a few even began to cooperate willingly, fascinated by the humans who had outsmarted them. But the most important discovery came from studying Valkyrie psychology. Nari had spent months interviewing captured aliens. What she learned changed everything. "They are not just afraid of us," she told Deho during a meeting of resistance leaders. "They are confused. Their entire worldview is breaking down." "What do you mean?" asked Colonel Park Jin-woo, a former military officer who now led the largest resistance group in Asia. "The Valkyrie see the universe in simple terms," Nari explained. "Strong things eat weak things. Predators hunt prey. The smart rule the stupid. But we have proven that weak things can defeat strong things, while prey can hunt predators. That the ruled can outsmart the rulers. So they are having an identity crisis," said Dr. Kim Haram, a psychologist who worked with freed human prisoners. "Exactly. Many captured Valkyrie have stopped eating. They sit in corners and refuse to move. They keep asking the same question. How is this possible?" The psychological collapse of individual Valkyrie was spreading to their entire military structure. Valkyrie commanders were calling for massive reinforcements from their home world. They were implementing security measures that made no sense. They were fighting an enemy they did not understand. Meanwhile, humans were becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. They were becoming intelligent pack hunters on a planetary scale. The Jin's communication network now connected resistance, groups on every continent. When Valkyrie forces moved to attack one group, information spread instantly to warn others. When humans discovered a new weakness, every group learned about it within hours. "We are no longer fighting as separate tribes," the Jin reported to the Global Resistance Council. "We are fighting as one species, one pack, one mind." The coordination was devastating to Valkyrie operations. They would plan an attack on a human settlement only to find it empty when they arrived. They would try to secure a supply depot only to discover that humans had already stolen everything valuable. Most frustrating of all, humans had learned to use Valkyrie's senses against them. Bo Young's team had developed devices that created fake heat signatures. Kungmin had created chemicals that masked human scents while amplifying confusing odors. Minho had learned to hack Valkyrie biological computers and feed them false information. Turning point came when the Valkyrie High Command arrived from their home world. 3 massive ships landed outside what used to be New York City. They carried the most elite Valkyrie warriors, predators who had never been defeated in battle. High Commander Zerok was 12 feet tall and covered in silver scales. His claws were longer than knives and sharp enough to cut through steel. He had personally conquered 17 worlds for the Valkyrie Empire. He had never met prey that could challenge him. "Explain this failure," he demanded of the Earth commanders during an emergency meeting. "The humans have changed," stammered Guard Captain Thrak, the same Valkyrie that Deho's team had first stalked. "They no longer behave like prey. They coordinate. They plan. They hunt in packs." "Impossible," Zerok snarled. "Humans are weak. They are slow. They are stupid. They are food." "That is what we thought," replied Shepard Korvac. "But they have captured 12 of our warriors. They know our patrol routes better than we do. They disappear like ghosts and strike like lightning." Zerak's yellow eyes burned with rage. "Then we will show them what real predators can do. We will hunt down every human on this planet." We will make them remember their place in the food chain. The High Commander's plan was simple and brutal. Valkyrie hunter-killer teams would sweep across Earth, executing any human they found. More slaves. No more workers. Total extermination. But the plan failed before it even started. Human intelligence. Networks learned about the extermination order within hours. The Jinn's communication system spread the warning to every resistance group on the planet. Within one day, millions of humans had disappeared into hidden shelters, underground tunnels, and secret bases. When the Valkyrie hunter teams began their sweep, they found nothing. Empty cities, abandoned facilities, silent factories. Was as out. If the entire human population had vanished, where are they? Xerox demanded. We do not know, admitted Captain Thrak. Our sensors detect no large human gatherings. No heat signatures, no scent trails. They have simply disappeared. The humans had not disappeared. They were hiding. But more importantly, they were watching. For every Valkyrie hunter team there were dozens of human observers. They tracked Valkyrie movements. They reported positions. They waited for the perfect moment to strike. That moment came 3 days later. The Valkyrie had spread their forces thin, trying to cover the entire planet. Hunter teams were isolated and unsupported. They were tired from searching empty buildings. They were frustrated by their failure to find prey. The humans attacked at dawn. It was not a battle in the traditional sense. There were no armies facing each other, no dramatic charges or heroic last stands. Instead, it was a carefully coordinated hunting operation. Human teams struck simultaneously at Valkyrie positions around the world. They used the aliens' own tactics against them: ambush attacks, superior numbers, targeting the weakest members. First, but the most devastating weapon was fear. The Valkyrie had never experienced coordinated resistance before. They had never faced an enemy that could be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. They had never fought prey that hunted with intelligence and patience. Within 6 hours, half of the Valkyrie forces on Earth had been killed or captured. The survivors were trapped in their landing ships, surrounded by human forces that seemed to know their every move. High Commander Xerox stood in his command ship, staring at tactical displays that showed red warning symbols across the entire Zaire planet. His elite warriors, predators who had never known defeat, were being systematically hunted down by creatures they had considered food. "This is impossible," he whispered. A communication request came through. It was from the humans. Deho's face appeared on the screen. Behind him stood representatives from resistance groups around the world. They looked calm and confident. Looked like victors. "High Commander Xerox," Deho said politely. "We would like to discuss terms for your surrender." "Surrender," Xerox roared. "The Valkyrie do not surrender to prey." "You are correct," Deho replied calmly. "The Valkyrie do not surrender to prey. But we are no longer prey. We are predators. And you are now at the bottom of the food chain." The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, Xerox spoke. "What do you want?" "We want you to leave Earth. We want you to free all human slaves on other worlds. We want you to tell the galaxy that humanity is no longer available for conquest. And if we refuse..." Deho smiled. It was the smile of an apex predator who held all the advantages. "Then we will teach the rest of the galaxy what we taught you. We will show them that any species can become apex predators if they learn to think. Like hunters instead of prey." 1 year later, Earth was free. The Valkyrie had withdrawn to their home world, spreading warnings about the dangerous humans who had reversed the natural order. Other enslaved species across the galaxy began using human tactics. The predator-prey relationships that had existed for millions of years started crumbling. Deho stood in his new office at the Earth Defense Coalition headquarters. Through his window, he could see human children playing with young Valkyrie in the park below. Former enemies learning to coexist. Food chain was never about biology, he said to Sora, who had become his deputy. It was about mindset, about who thinks like a predator and who thinks like prey. "And now?" she asked. humanity has learned the most important lesson in the universe. Intelligence is the ultimate predator trait. Everything else, size, strength, speed, claws, teeth, everything else is just details. The apex predators had ruled Earth for 3 years, but humans had rewritten the food chain forever.